Hey guys, All in Crypto here, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for the second video of today. I think I'm going to make some more daily videos, try and keep you up to date on the market as a whole daily, where we're not going to necessarily focus on any one specific altcoin, but we're going to take a look at the market as a whole. And we are going to, of course, pay attention to Bitcoin, as it is really that tide that rises and sinks all ships within it. And really, I want to share a couple of interesting things with you in this video. We're going to dive into Bitcoin. We're going to look at the kind of macroeconomic landscape in relation to some of the traditional financial stocks. We're also going to be going over some really interesting articles, because on every single dip, we are going to be talking about Morgan Stanley and how they've increased their Bitcoin exposure through GBTC significantly, certainly in Q3. And this is something that they've continued to do. We see continuous inflows to things like CoinShare and their fund. But really what I want to do is bring up some articles in relation to what happens on these dips typically. This isn't just a new trend that we see with large Bitcoin whales and Bitcoin holders. On these dips, they see them as accumulation opportunities. So we're going to go over a number of articles. Where I really want to start is by touching on where we left off yesterday in relation to Bitcoin and how we were very tethered with the FTSE and some of the traditional financial instruments. And what we essentially said yesterday was, look, if you see a roll for the FTSE, for oil, for the S&P and various other stocks, then expect this to be very correlated with Bitcoin and Bitcoin to really follow. As we live in a very strange time now where global events really have a huge impact on markets as a whole. And as Bitcoin has matured as a market, it's really in the category with them, because we see these same actors, for example, Morgan Stanley, in the traditional space that we now see in Bitcoin. And people essentially, during times of fear, we know the market's sold off across the board, not just in crypto. FTSE had the worst day since March 2020. And of course, oil saw a similar thing. This was a pretty severe sell-off, and this was due to the fears of the new variant. This is something, as investors, you guys need to start paying attention to, certainly now in such a strange and uncertain time, because it is very correlated with crypto. You know, if these things start to ramp up and we start to see a decline on the traditional financial realm, it's going to be echoed in the crypto space, and Bitcoin's really where you want to look first, and then your altcoins will really just follow that with some pariahs. But the market's actually looking pretty cheery today. It really did what we said it was going to do yesterday. We said if it sells off, the market will sell off. If this goes up, you're in for a good week, essentially. Now, it's not the strongest of buybacks, and we're not seeing the strongest of signs with markets, but it has gone in the right direction. And this is all, of course, global event related. So this is really what we're looking at. This is something very important to pay attention to. It's interesting how we have drawn this ascending triangle really since the 11th of November, when we first got rejected off the ascending resistance, and we have actually found that ascending support. It also coincides with the 0.5 level, which is where we bounced last time from the pullback that we saw. And it's very interesting, because the Fear and Greed Index, which is really an index that monitors or reflects retail sentiment, is really in opposition with what you would call smart money, some of the Bitcoin whales and actors like Morgan Stanley are doing. You know, they are continuing to increase their exposure. This is an article here that says Bitcoin whales continue massive accumulation as Bitcoin supply moves to strong hands. And this is what we see in these pullbacks for the crypto space. We see weak hands sell due to fear, etc., etc., and we see these stronger hands step in and accumulate. And it really goes back to that mantra of 2017, where essentially, you know, the dips during this time period were there to be accumulated. In a bull market, you know, that's exactly what dips are there to be had. And we have done lots of, we made a video yesterday talking about when we think the bull market's going to end, and how I actually am a subscriber to the Bitcoin lengthening cycle theory. But I still do think the 4-year cycle theory has a play, due to the fact that the 4-year cycle theory is really centered around the Bitcoin halvening, which causes a supply shock. And this, of course, is going to be relevant and evident as we move into the future. So this is one article. This is another. Bitcoin third largest whale added nearly 380 million in BTC in less than 2 days. We see here the largest Bitcoin whale on record accumulates 411 million in BTC as crypto markets consolidate. Long-term Bitcoin holders at multi-year highs, according to Glassnode. And this is a Glassnode report. So it's very, very interesting. And you can definitely see that, markets are absolutely manipulated. You guys don't need me to tell you that, and the people that really take advantage of that are people that kind of know what they're looking at and can see the wood through the trees. And that's what hopefully this channel is allowing some of you to be able to see. Bitcoin is still very, very far from being adopted on a number of levels. If you look at the people that use cryptocurrency, it's a lot smaller than the people that actually hodl it, and the people that actually hold crypto isn't that large in terms of the world population. And this is adoption that we're still yet to see, and this is really what you're looking at when you're looking at the Bitcoin chart. You're looking at adoption, and this is going to continue. Certainly, March 2020 was actually one of the most bullish events for crypto because it really highlighted the flaws in the financial system. And really, one reason you saw Bitcoin have such an amazing run and other markets was due to the fact that the monetary supply, certainly in the US and other countries, got massively inflated. People look to hedge that within assets. And this is the whole concept of, why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, because the rich people own assets. Poorer people tend to live paycheck to paycheck. And they're the real victims of inflation, if you will. So there's lots going on. You guys need to absolutely pay attention to macroeconomic events. This is an interesting article. Morgan Stanley increases its BTC exposure by buying more GBTC shares. I think if a Bitcoin ETF, not a futures ETF, actually gets approved, you will see banks, I think Morgan Stanley is the 5th or 6th largest bank in America, absolutely ape into crypto because they'll have the kind of green light from regulators. The reason they don't own Bitcoin directly is because they can't be seen to do that. And regulators can't necessarily jump in with an ETF. One reason, lots of people don't understand why the SEC can't just say, okay, we're going to approve a Bitcoin ETF. There's certainly been many proposals put forward to them, but it's really to do with the traditional financial markets and what happens to those when an ETF gets approved. Because essentially, a gold ETF, for example, and people that have money in that would see, in my opinion, a negative reaction to a Bitcoin ETF approval, because people would choose the faster horse in the race, and certainly banks and stuff like that. So there's a huge knock-on effect. If this new kind of asset, Bitcoin, gets an ETF approved, that has a massive knock-on effect on the traditional financial investments, and they've got to kind of appease both sides. And we know that these bodies are everyone's got special interests. That's just life, including myself, including you guys. So that's really why we've not seen the ETF approved. But if an ETF was approved, I think you'd see people like Morgan Stanley, who are having to go through GBTC, really up the ante, and other banks would certainly follow suit. And it's not just Morgan Stanley that are doing this. This is just a recent article came out 4 days ago. The bank's largest GBTC purchase was through the Morgan Stanley Insight Fund. The fund held 1,520,000 GBTC shares at the end of Q3, increased from 928,000 shares in Q2. So you can see these companies continuing to up their exposure. And I personally think that this is going to continue. We know we've got people like Michael Saylor that just continue to buy. Morgan Stanley's current BTC exposure is approximately $306 million. So it seems relatively small in the grand scheme of things when Bitcoin is at $1.1 trillion in market cap. But in actual fact, 306 million could move the market significantly. I think we worked out ages ago that it was just under 100 million to move the market 1% either way when Bitcoin had a $1 trillion market cap. So, remember, market cap is just a derivative or a secondary fact from the price, and price ultimately determines that, and price is really only reached via coins getting traded back and forth on exchanges. So it's often an unfair metric. So this is just a really short and sweet video. Things look good to start with. It's really what you've got to do now as investors is pay attention to the global financial landscape and pay attention to the global events that are taking place right now and correlate them with your investments in Bitcoin. And then you can go from there with some of your altcoins. So we look good so far. Bitcoin's showing quite a bit of, I really like the fact that we bounced off this kind of ascending support and around about the 0.5 level on your fib retracement tool in a similar fashion to what we previously did. So I'm going to love and leave you on that note, guys. It was really just a short and sweet update. And if you guys would like me to do these more frequently, we are actually going to make market updates daily where we just cover the markets as a whole. And we do, on the channel, we are looking to put in preparations to have daily news updates where we cover everything that's happened in the past 24 hours in a short and sweet update. All I have for you in the video, guys. If you enjoyed the content, like is always appreciated. So is a comment, and I'll catch you all in the next YouTube video. Thank you very much for watching.